What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Elevation Requires Change. I want to hit you with this question that I keep getting asked by everybody, and it's about my passion. Why are you so passionate? Why are you always so happy? Then they ask me, why am I always trying to help people become better? They ask me why my message are always so positive. And they ask me, why don't I just focus on reality? Well, I am focused on reality. I'm focused on the atrocities that I see in this world. I see the struggles. I see families that are hurting. I see people who are thriving, and I see people who are barely getting by. I do see both sides of life. But if we're honest, the greater majority of the things that we see, it's not happiness, it's not success, it's perceived happiness. But we see is struggle. The greater majority of what we see is division. If you were to open your social media right now, if you were to look at the things that fill your screen, you'll see people laughing. That's great. You'll see people joking. I love that. I'm all for it. You'll see people entertaining themselves. And I think that is extremely important. I think joy matters. But I don't think we should pursue it at the cost of ignoring everything else that's happening around us. The reason why I'm saying it is I know for a fact that every single person is in one of three places. They're either heading into a storm. This is what I got from one of my first professors. He says you're either going to a storm, going through a storm, or coming out of one. And I know what it's like to be able to go through storms, and I know for a fact that another one is coming. And I've watched so many people who have never been able to make it through their storms. They gave up. They gave up on themselves. They gave up on their lives. They gave up on their friends. They gave up on their families. Some of them took their own lives. Some of them made decisions that they can never take back. And so I've seen what pain can do to a person, and I've lived through what struggle can do to a person. And because of that, I believe that somebody has to choose to be the difference maker. Somebody's got to do something different. Somebody's got to be bold enough to believe this world can become a better place. Well, that somebody is me. I believe with everything in me. I believe the way I think matters. I believe the way that I live matters. I believe the way I treat people matters. I believe that change is possible. And so when people ask me the question of where does this passion come from? The answer is simple. If you want to understand the source of my passion, then you have to be willing to look at the root of my pain, because I've been through a lot and people don't always understand that. In some ways, they are fortunate that they don't. They're fortunate because I've been through so much. They're fortunate because they'll never know what it took for me to become the person that I am today. And I know I'm not the only person who has these experiences, but I do feel like I'm one of the unique people who is willing to talk about it. People ask me, where does this thing come from? And it's because of the root. You have to be willing to look at the root of my pain. I would never want anybody to see some of the things that I've seen. I've never want you to experience the things that I've experienced. I would never want anyone to carry the weight that I've had to carry. Those experiences, they did a good thing though. Those experiences, they shaped me. And they forced me to ask questions that people never have to ask. They forced me to wrestle with my pain, to wrestle with loss, to deal with the disappointment, all of the levels of trauma that I've gone through, all the levels of grief that I've gone through. They forced me to confront parts of myself that I didn't want to face. But they also forced me to heal. And that healing, the thing we know is it doesn't come automatic. It took intentional work. It took me forgiving myself. It took for me being forgiven by other people. It took conversations I didn't want to have. It took tears that nobody ever saw. Healing took me making a decision over and over again that my pain was never going to become my identity. So when you see me smiling, I need you to understand that this smile right here, this thing was earned. When you hear me speaking messages of hope, I need you to understand that this hope was fought for. When you see me believing in people, understand that that belief was built in places where it could have been easier for me to simply be bitter. But I chose to be better. And I don't want you to have to become me. I don't want you to have to go through what I went through just to believe what I believe. Borrow my belief. If I can take everything that I've lived and use it to be able to help somebody else avoid that same type of pain, then every scar that I have had, every scar that I have is with a purpose. That's why I speak the way that I speak. That's why I care the way that I care. That's why I refuse to stop believing that people can change. This is not a game to me. This is not just for social media. This is who I am. People think I'm just doing this because I just enjoy doing it, but they couldn't be more wrong. There is nothing else I need from this world. What I need is for people to operate from a standard of love and conviction if I do say something. What I need is for people to understand that life is too short. What I need is for people to realize that they already have everything they need to be a greater version of themselves. But you can't be that version if you don't get unstuck. You can't become that version of you if you keep allowing your past to dictate your future. You can't become that version of you if you're constantly asking yourself what might happen if you fail instead of saying what might happen if I finally try, if I finally do this thing a little bit better. Life is too short. Get outside. Put your feet in the grass for a second. Have you done that? Put your feet in the grass. Go and stand in the rain. Go and walk through a forest. Go and climb a mountaintop and look out and see what creation has for you. Watch the sunrise or watch the sunset. Get out at night and look up at the stars. Take a deep breath and remember what it's like to be alive, because somebody can't. These are the things that remind us of who we are. These are the things that reconnect us to what really matters. These are the things that make us better. And I refuse to believe that division is stronger than love. I refuse to believe that hate is louder than the hope that I have in my heart. And I refuse to believe that I'm one of the only people who think that we can change. I'll continue to believe in people. I'll continue to believe that we can do better. As long as I have breath in my lungs, this is my message. This is my message of elevation. I'll continue to remind people that they can become more than who they are currently. Because the world doesn't need more people telling us why we can't do things. We've got enough of that. It needs more people who are willing to demonstrate that it can happen and who can support you while you're in the process. I need you to wake up. I need you to wake up. I need you to understand that your hourglass has already been tipped, and we do not know if there's more sand on the bottom of that glass or more sand on the top. Every single grain of sand matters. And the question is not whether time is moving. We look at it. Look at it. Time is ticking right now. None of us know how much we have left. So what are you doing with it? What are we doing with the time that we have? Who are we impacting? That's what this is about. How much impact can I make before I leave this earth? Can I do something incredible today? What if this was the last opportunity that I would ever have to speak to someone? This is the way I want to live. This is the reason why I speak the way I want to speak. This is why I refuse to waste the time that I've been given. I want the very best for you. I want the very best for humanity. And this is not easy by no means, because I could be doing anything. This is not the popular thing to do. It would be so much easier for me to get on here and laugh and joke, but I want people to understand compassion before condemnation. I want people to become more curious about things and not being so judgmental about things, not being so critical. I want people to stop seeing labels. I want people to just stop seeing people for who they think they are and realize that we are all human beings. More importantly, I want my children to look back one day at every video I've ever recorded, every post that I've ever written, every conversation I've ever had. I want them to read the book, and I want them to know exactly what their father stood for. I don't want them to wonder what I believe. I want them to know it. I want them to know it at the bottom of their heart, and that I believed people were worth fighting for. And I want them to know that my kindness by no means is weakness, but I want them to know that my love is so abundant, that's the strength that comes out. I want them to understand that this level of courage comes because I know what it's like to feel weak and to feel fear. And so I'm choosing to move this direction forward anyway. I want my children to have something they can come back to long after I'm gone, and I want these words to be their compass. I want these words to be their North Star. They help guide them in those moments when life doesn't make sense. I want to help guide you when life doesn't make sense, because one day I won't be here, and one day the voices of the nonsense will be there. One day my voice will be silent, and I want to have a choice in what I leave behind. And I hope what I leave behind stands with them when life tries to knock them down. I hope that my character is the thing that they can see and it comforts them. I'm choosing purpose over popularity. I'm choosing service before self. I'm choosing love over hate. And maybe one day my great-grandchildren will know my name as well. Maybe they'll ask who I was, and somebody else outside of my family will be able to tell them about my accomplishments. I don't need them to know my titles. I don't need them to know I got an associate's, a bachelor's, a master's, and in my dissertation. I don't need them to know that, but I need them to remember that I was different. And I hope that they remember that I chose people. And everybody I've ever impacted, I want them to remind them that I chose people, because I believe humanity is worth investing in. And I hope they remember that I lived a life that I only wanted to help people be better, because at the end of all of this, that's what matters. Life is truly beautiful. It really is. It's beautiful through the pain. It's beautiful through the loss. It's beautiful through the disappointments. It's beautiful through the storms. Life is still beautiful. And because it's beautiful, you and I have a responsibility to make the most of it. I'm no longer satisfied with mediocrity. I'm not satisfied with almost. Not satisfied with halfway. I'm not satisfied with simply existing. I want to live a life of purpose and fulfillment. I want to love. I want to encourage people to love, to forgive, to build, to create, to encourage. I want to encourage people to serve, because serving is everything to me. And I want to leave every room, every person better than I found it, better than I found them. And I want to leave this world better than it was when I got here. Because I know my hourglass has been tipped, and one day it's going to run out. And so will yours. And so when that day comes, I don't want to ask myself, could I have done things differently? Could I have loved a little bit more? I want to ask myself, I don't want to ask myself, could I have served more? Right? I want to know that I ran the race to my full potential. I want to know that I emptied the cup. I want to know that I emptied everything God placed inside of me, that I held nothing back, that there was no reservation, that it was done with conviction, that I gave more to this world than what I took, that there was less of me and more of others. And if I can do that, then I know that I have a life worth remembering. This is a message for every one of my heartbeats out there. Let's go. I'll see you on the next one.